Is a role definition, not just like defining our role in what we do, but how we do it and how we interconnect, not only with each other, but with everyone else as partners. And then setting priorities would be, there are so many initiatives that are occurring as we're going. So we want to make sure that we're determining which of those initiatives are part of our own prioritization process. Like, which ones do we need to be either like knee-deep involved or just in contact? There's a lot that's going on around us at the same time, so we need to make sure what are the areas that we're most dedicated to and which comes first. So that's a bit of a challenge. And then the other is policy and program review. We want to make sure that we're doing that as we go along as well. How do the policies that exist impact us, or policies that are coming up and being drafted and made, and as well the same thing with programs. How do they all connect with the work that we're doing and with the issue in itself, and what is the impact on our own efforts? And the fourth is assessing relevance of initiatives and connecting. Again, just connecting those dots, our involvement within each of those initiatives. How do we connect one initiative to another? And in the same sense, we're also connecting resources. We keep hearing of needs from one community that another community might be able to provide, or another department and resource or service might be able to fulfill. So those are the connections we want to be making. And then fifth, the accountability mechanism really ties into what the shared measurements work is doing, because we want to have a sense of accountability, not just for the work that we're doing, but for what everyone else is doing. How are we holding everyone accountable as well as we hold ourselves accountable? The backbone, so this is a bit of a draft of what it kind of looks like. The coordinator under the CAO is there at the core of all the efforts that are happening around us. And again, just to kind of have a visual of where do we fall within all of the other initiatives around us, like the AB 109, Health and All Policies, the Children's Council, ECDI, and then there's that campaign where Elliot said there was a miracle that would happen somewhere in between there. But so we need to figure out what that miracle is exactly.
Around mutually reinforcing activities. And what was it, Diane? The beauty in art is through the the interpretation. I didn't create these. I don't know what they mean, but I'm going to give you my interpretation. So here we have all the different activities that represent all the different colors and expressions in our community that come together around our common vision, our common agenda, to reinforce this nice thing that we can really get a grip on. How is that? Was that okay?
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then this other one here is this is more about our catalog, our map, our database of services. So the thing that we're going to focus on first around mutually reinforcing activities is actually mapping out everything the county is doing. This is important for shared measurements, so they know what we're doing, so we know what to measure or what we might need to do in addition. It's important for the backbone to help coordinate everything, and then also to understand where the gaps and overlaps are. And then ultimately, we're going to be able to make some decisions on how to reallocate our time and money around services, around filling gaps or getting rid of overlaps, which is actually going to be one of the harder things to do, is to make those decisions. We have some challenges around that, in particular of how to get people to break out of the way they think about doing business. It's not just, oh, I've been doing this forever, so we got to keep doing it. It's really taking a serious look at what the value of that is, and are we doing it as well as we can? Can we do it better? So this is our database of services. This database has all kinds of information streams coming from all directions, and it makes this beautiful pattern. And actually, it reminds me of plaid. And plaid represents, it's actually a family, every family has their own plaid, and it's the county family. So we're creating our material. This is our story. And what we really thought that this database can do is, yes, we're learning how to get our services, access services, it'll help us learn where things are missing, but it helps us build our story of who we are through how we touch the county, touches the community. So this is an opportunity to build our story and to connect our people. So that's our database. This database of services really has two big purposes or orientations, the internal and the external. So on the internal, we've already started this catalog in our strategy. Some of you might remember getting us this information. It's in the back of the strategy. We asked departments to give us their programs currently that touch gang violence prevention. Tell us where on the spectrum of services they land, prevention, intervention, suppression, or reentry, and then give us a rough estimate of how much those programs are. This is just the beginning. Some of the other data points we want are who's using your services, who are the difference between who are using them and who the target is, who we intended those services. We might learn something out of that. The usual, where they're provided, how they're provided, are they online, are they in person, details like that. Of course, how much you're spending on them, what kind of staff are involved in providing those services.
So when we were last together, we came up with a few of these elements that we fleshed out today, in that we recognize that the ultimate outcome that we would like us all to work towards is a set of shared outcomes and indicators, long-term outcomes and indicators. Underneath that would be intermediate or short-term that may be more department or program specific. So first, we need to get everyone together that are from the county departments that potentially work with these indicators, probably program people, to start to develop that theory of change that leads to the outcomes and indicators. That has to interface with the mutually reinforcing activities group. So already by developing that list and the program activities that are going on, that starts to create some of that framework for this group to be working off of, to think about, how much these outcomes and indicators are ultimately what all these programs and activities are working towards. This short list and the indicators that would maybe be more department specific, we'd hope could be turned in as a quick turnaround project into a static report that would be set up more as a static dashboard on the internet for the community to access and see, and program people to access and see. That would require some people who might be part of the eventual evaluation team as well to be part of that. That evaluation team is also going to be working over the long term. We have long-term goals. The long-term goals are, before I get to that long-term goal, we have one more short-term goal that we want to do, is to create a shared folder, a county shared folder between departments where we can share all our reports that we work on that relate to evaluation right now that can contribute to the work towards gang violence prevention in the county. Also policies and protocols, procedures, program code, so that we start to get more efficiency of our work across the system. Also, as part of that work and leading into the long-term goal is, as part of that efficiency, is what are we doing in silos that we could potentially all be doing together when it comes to what software we're using, or other elements of, for example, the Claritas database, which is our demographic data that we often use for our denominator data for developing rates or for tracking demographic data over time, is purchased by DSS. Can we somehow work that into more of our enterprise system like we use for our enterprise GIS, where there's county-wide licenses that we all then utilize it? That's just one example. There could be several other out there that helps us create efficiencies, and also then creates a little bit more funding availability across county departments for these types of work that support gang violence prevention. So then getting into the long-term goal is really we want to go beyond the static system and have a living dynamic system of shared data. And that shared data can be used to track the outcomes, and also to potentially track and identify kids that are moving into more of an at-risk situation that are within the county departments. So in order to do that, first we have to have a technical team that's going to have to meet in a workshop capacity. And they are going to have to be talking about creating that infrastructure for linking systems, and that's going to include, as well as IT and potentially and the CAO's office to talk about funding for that opportunity, potentially some external companies that may do this already and how they do it, but also what we've run into over and over again is it's also we have to consider and keep in mind county council risk management, the legal aspects of how we share data, and get that moving forward through the system. As that technical team works, at the same time, the evaluation team is also going to be working on developing the methodology and the system for this process, because what we have found as we move forward is just something as simple as whether you use the birthday that the person has when they enter the system or the age they are at this point in time makes a big difference. And different county departments may pull data in different ways using different methodology parameters such as that. So we have to be working on that as a team to come up with our common constructs across all county departments for the mutual system of shared data. As well, trying to read the smaller and smaller font here. The linking all of this, and part of that, even just talking about the shared data systems and having the same methodology between how data is pulled. Across the county, there's QI, continuous quality improvement, going on. So we really think there needs to be some opportunity to align some of that continuous quality improvement work so that we're working on mutually reinforcing projects across our different departments and systems, because some of this work could easily be part of the performance improvement projects or system improvement projects that the different departments have to do. Ultimately, we could even have performance measures that are shared interagency performance measures as part of the CAO's performance measurement system. It's just moving down through the system, whether you're at the 30,000 foot level or going right down to the ground level. That also has to, I believe, be part of the mutually reinforcing activities as that moves forward. So there is going to have to be, through these workshops, there has to be some connection with the work being done by the mutually reinforcing activities group. We did list some of the relevant indicators that we're familiar with, such as education, poverty, crime. These are broad domain areas: health, child care, child abuse, injury data. So underneath that, there would be different departments probably, some under several areas and some under one.
Just a question about this being a county workshop. So this would also interface, or might bring in entities that are not necessarily county entities that have data interests. Say, for example, I'm just thinking Cradle to Career, which is...
I think we were, yes, and it's a short answer, but what we were thinking, our first charge was the alignment of county departments.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we keep in mind the work that is going on out in the county with other initiatives, and bring that in later, but first is getting our house in order, our
Great.
plans in order. So there would be a core group of people drafting those, but then probably vetting them out with a larger group. We didn't identify specific county departments or specific people, but we did talk about some program people work extensively in program and are familiar with the types of outcomes and indicators. The other thing we talked about that's important for that group to consider is there are core indicators that we're mandated to report, and then there's indicators or outcomes that come along that are more grant-driven. So we have to keep in mind which is which, and we may have components of each, but make sure those mandated ones are part of that. And I agree, definitely I'm a strong proponent of that 5 to 7 outcomes that are part of the collective impact that show your need and that you're also going to be moving the needle on. But as you work within a program, you may have those, and then underneath those, you may have some that are a little more specific to your